How is it going, everybody? It is Thursday night. It is 8 p.m. You know that means it's time for your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. And we got a lot to get into tonight. We got events happening on Netflix that are bringing in millions of viewers, and the stream isn't quite streaming the way it should be. Yes, we are going to talk a little bit of boxing tonight with that Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, because how does this figure in to WWE moving there this January? Because things did not go smoothly last Friday night. We got AEW Full Gear going down this weekend. We're going to be looking at more WWE ID talent tonight, and who knows what else, folks. Buckle in. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really want is that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need, that Big Gold Belt.
How is it going, everyone across the land? We are so glad you are here with us tonight. We thought we would have a bit more of a crowd, but it is just me and Jamal tonight, the giant crab on the right side of the screen. We are bringing you our two-man show tonight, as we do sometimes, as Damian G down the Lone Star State. His cables are not working for him, so he will not be joining us tonight, and the rest of the crew is busy with other commitments. But we are here to talk some wrestling, talk a little bit of boxing even, and who knows what else. There is a lot going on in the world as we are headed towards Thanksgiving next week, and we are so glad you are here with us. How are you doing tonight, Giant Crab?
I am ready to go on vacation, but otherwise, all well and good.
There you go. I think a lot of people are feeling that. I'm ready for the short week next week and the official start of the holidays, and to be heading towards the end of this year. So yeah, we are. I'm ready. I am ready. I am primed and ready for this week to be over and a short week ahead. But yeah, let's talk some big events going on, because the last week when we closed the show, we've been doing our thing where we've been talking about, what are we watching that's not just wrestling, because Big Gold Belt Media covering all kinds of stuff, wrestling, movies, comics, and more, as we like to say, all kinds of entertainment. And Two James last week mentioned, the next night was the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight that has been promoted since the spring, was originally planned for back in June and got delayed. And last Friday night, it was finally going to happen. And of course, the big hook on this was it was going to be on Netflix. It wasn't going to be on pay-per-view like the old days. It's going to be on Netflix. So people weren't going to have to shell out $100 for this thing. And everyone was like, is old man Mike Tyson going to knock out Jake Paul, or is Jake Paul going to be able to hang with him? How's this going to go? And very much a freak show fight that had a lot of folks' attention and that small barrier of entry. So folks were very interested last Friday how this was going to happen. And coming out of it, the biggest story, as I'm sure unless you've been living under a rock, the biggest story of this thing ended up being Netflix itself and the quality of their stream and what the hoops the folks had to jump through to watch this show. And I'm sure going in, folks weren't looking for that to happen. But this isn't the first time Netflix has had this issue with a major event, as they've had with some of their other forays into live streaming. But once again, a bumpy ride for Netflix and live streaming. And this, of course, creates the elephant in the room of next January. We have WWE Raw moving to Netflix every Monday night. Right. So this was kind of the ultimate stress test. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and tell you that Netflix passed with flying colors. But here we are. A lot to unpack here. Giant Crab, your thoughts as far as hearing how this went down, that this was not by far a smooth rollout of live events on Netflix.
Right. So I don't have Netflix. I did watch it online live, and up to a certain point, and the VPN gods couldn't save you. Your local Dave & Buster's couldn't save you. Your sister's Netflix account in Idaho couldn't save you. Everybody had the same issue. And it's interesting as people were playing whack-a-mole with the streams to see who had the connection in what part of the world. Switch over to Dubai. Oh no, Australia is good. Oh, Eastern Canada is working magically right now. I don't know specifically what caused the issues that they had. Was it really one server over another that was just completely bogged down, and there's no system of like checks and balances or redundancies to like get the workload off of itself, kind of like the power grid? If you lose power here, then it will do something down the line so that everyone doesn't just fail, and it will reroute things and do. I don't know if that's what Netflix has. I would assume that they would have some kind of fail safe, but whatever they thought they was working with didn't work. So with that said, how many people watch the show?
There's a bunch of different numbers flowing around. The number Netflix put out the next day was 60 million households. As like a big number they wanted to put out. They're claiming nearly 50 million for the Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fight before it, which coincidentally, that's when my stream first started giving trouble, was during the ladies' fight. It wasn't the main event. Everything was working fine up until the ladies were fighting, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, everyone's coming in now.
Right. And then that fight turned out to be a bomb burner. And then I missed the end of the fight, because of the stream. So 60 million. Now, I heard a number that there's a total of like 250 plus million total Netflix subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean total households or total accounts that are viewable thing, but just total subscribers.
Right.
So let's just say that there are 300 million actual individual streams of Netflix that could possibly go on.
Right.
And only 60 million of it was dedicated to the live event. That's less than a fifth of what we're speculating as the absolute max capacity for Netflix. That's only a fifth. And it had that issue. So let's say that 60 million is the break-even stress test pass-fail ratio right now.
Okay.
So what happens when they do the NFL on Christmas Day? I think they got 2 games.
That's the next big one. With Beyonce at halftime.
Sure. And then you have Raw coming up in January. Is it possible, like, you wouldn't plug your microwave, the toaster, and a vacuum cleaner and the hair dryer into the same socket? You got to spread it out.
Right.
Does this change the way they do live events in the fact that they know that they can't handle multiple high-impact live streams from around the world because the flight was available from around the world, I believe. I don't think anybody was like geo-locked out or anything like that.
Oh, no.
And if they were,
it was worldwide.
If they were, do correct us. But that's still to my point. If we're speculating on these numbers, only a fifth of total possible users were doing a thing at once, and they failed miserably when it counted.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
The other number I'm seeing is they're claiming 38 million of the 60 to 65 top, they were saying at the time, came from the U.S. So they're saying 38 million in the U.S. and then a total of 60 to 65 total worldwide.
Okay, so then if you are Netflix and you're a global platform, and you know that 60 million viewers around the world were doing a thing, so that means that, let's just say, for example, you have an NFL game on a Monday night, on a Monday holiday. You have Raw on, and then you have cricket on, and it's all happening at the same time. You got an event in India, you got an event in Japan, you got an event in Korea, you got an event in Brazil, you got an event in the US. It doesn't have to be 60 million at this point in any one locale. If it all adds up to that number, the shit's going to go down like dominoes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this because as we see, Netflix is trying to get into other things, carrying the NFL, carrying live boxing. They're going to have Raw live every week and stuff like that. 38 million people ain't watching Raw, so that's not my concern. But going back to the individual server load and stuff like that, I don't know where they are. I'm not entirely sure how it works. But what if they do the NFL and most of their viewership comes from the 2 towns that are playing? I don't know what the game is on Christmas, but let's just say it's Kansas City and Baltimore.
Kansas City and the Steelers.
Okay, fine.
And then the second one, there's 2 games, and then the second one is, in fact, it's Baltimore and the Texans, Houston.
Okay.
So doubleheader on Christmas Day.
Right. So Houston's a pretty big market. Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, not the biggest markets, but for all of these teams,
marquee teams.
But all of these teams are marquee, fighting for playoff spots, and also popular within their own right. So, and it's also football on Christmas, which doesn't happen. I think this may be the first time I've ever heard of football on Christmas.
There's always been an NBA on Christmas. And let's not forget the X factor of Beyonce at halftime. For the women that don't care about the football.
So I guess that game is in Houston then.
Probably. Let me see if I can.
So then there's that. So there's so many things that they want you to key into Netflix for. Well, if the server that would serve Baltimore and Pittsburgh, New York, and Boston, what's that stress test look like?
Yeah.
Does that mean that
Pittsburgh is hosting the Kansas City game? Houston is hosting the Baltimore game.
Makes sense. But but now that we're talking about individual spaces around the country, if everybody and their mother in the Northeast is watching the game on Netflix because you got to see it, it's football and they're addicted to it. What happens? What that barrier of stress is a hell of a lot lower than 38 million. Can they handle the entire Northeast doing a thing at once? It doesn't even have to be worldwide at this point. And more importantly, to bring it back into the wrestling space, what does this look like for HBO Max? Are they taking notes? I mean, I would assume that they're having the same concerns, that their infrastructure isn't that radically different. It's over the top service, on-demand service. Same principle.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing that gets me is Amazon is putting NFL games on every Thursday night. Been doing it for a good year now. I'm never hearing much of any issue with those. But Peacock is simulcasting games.
But they split their time between Amazon splits their time between Amazon Prime and Twitch.
Okay, true. Yeah.
So there's that. Peacock is really the back end of their games because their games are NBC.
Right.
So it's not that all of their eggs are in one basket. So it's not like the game, and actually that Baltimore game, I wonder if it's going to be on broadcast television in a local market. Because that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, last week the Commanders played Philadelphia on the Amazon Thursday night game. Yeah. And it was on local TV. It was absolutely on local TV. You did not have to have Amazon to see it.
Right. So then I wonder if that will be the case with Netflix. I mean, they paid a lot of damn money to get the exclusive rights for the NFL on Christmas. Yeah. And if you're looking for the Ravens, do you need a Netflix account? Or can you watch it on channel 45? Or channel 13? Who knows? Who knows? But it's still to the point of, what does this mean for HBO Max? Does this, affect their plans to broadcast AEW and, of course, their other live events? Mm-hmm. And we know their struggles with Bleacher Report. Not that it has to be the same thing. Not that it has to mean anything specifically to HBO Max, but they've got to be taking notes on this.
Yeah, I mean, streaming is where everything's headed, but this aren't infrastructure to make it work seamlessly and not just irritate and frustrate customers.
Yeah.
It's wild how it seems like most of these things work, but when it's these really, really big events, it just somehow it ain't hitting the mark still for whatever reason. And Netflix really tripped over its own damn feet here. And now, like we're saying, the next true stress test will be Christmas Day.
Sure.
And God, if I'm WWE, I'll be sitting here watching that this thing better work. Otherwise, Lord knows come a week after that.
As far as Netflix goes, there's no way to replicate. Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to say that. There's no way. I don't know. But if there is a way to replicate the absolute max capacity, worst case scenario of their system and their infrastructure, did they do that? Is that what that test looked like? And they just said, okay, we're going to go with it. Obviously the engineers have got to know. But it's just very interesting that they didn't really see. And I think that's really the most frustrating part about the whole thing is that even if you watched it on pay-per-view back in the olden days, it was still pay-per-view. You didn't, if your cable company had an issue, that doesn't mean that my cable company had an issue in the city. You know, there were other different ways and checks and balances and middlemen to go through and say, like, well, this feed is fine. This is where the problem could be down the road. Netflix is Netflix. If you have an internet connection, you are good. Everything's on them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also part of it as well, is that we put all our eggs into one basket. The basket broke.
Yeah.
We have no eggs or no basket. What do we do now?
Yeah, this is like if the satellite truck at the building had an issue, and
Right.
can't no one get the signal because the signal ain't leaving the building. In this case, Netflix couldn't get the damn signal out, so it didn't matter whether you had a legit Netflix account, you were watching it at a bar, if you're watching it on some kind of bootleg box.
Right.
None of it works. It was all just a spinning circle. It is what it is. Yeah,
So,
I mean, the thing that got me was, you know, of course, I saw so many wrestling fans immediately freaking out. Oh, Raw's going to be a disaster. And it's like, okay.
30 million people ain't watching that.
Fraction of this audience.
Yeah.
You know, Raw's going to be lucky to have, you know, for the premiere, they might have a couple million, you know, bigger than normal, bigger crowd, obviously, for that premiere episode. But Raw ain't going to be nowhere near this kind of number.
No.
But still, it's just, you would think that's what makes me kind of be like, I can't imagine WWE having the same issues. But then again, you never know. I mean, now that we know this, now that they have a benchmark, now they're like, okay, we had 60 million for this. I'm kind of NFL Christmas Day. I'm really kind of curious what numbers that's going to do. Because that's just going to be such a like, oh, football's on, it's Christmas Day, the whole family's over. And I don't know. I kind of figure it's going to do less. But then again, it's the NFL on Christmas Day. So that's like a wild card. I don't know. I'm really not sure if it'll do less or more. I would think less, but I don't know.
Right.
It's going to be a kind of more people will be gathered together will be the difference, because people will be gathered together for Christmas. So you won't have as many, I think, individual homes tuning in for it, because more people will be grouped together because of the events of the day.
Now, and of course, this is the question, and I don't know the answer to this. How many people signed up for Netflix just to watch the Mike Tyson fight?
Oh, yeah, they know that number. They're hoping to drive subscriptions.
Right. And because that's obviously the thing that they want to do. So now the question is, and this is the thing that I can't imagine happening, is that are people willing to sign up for Netflix, that assuming that they don't have it, because not everybody does, are they just going to sign up just for Raw? How many more people are willing to sign on and drive that number up for the potential users in order to hit whatever that capacity is? Now, obviously, Netflix is going to take your money every single time you offer it. But, you know, we see what that looks like, you know, on the back end, on the worst possible scenario. If this doesn't go flawlessly from Raw in Los Angeles on the when it goes to Netflix in January,
Oh yeah,
so it's interesting.
Man Cave Sports TV on YouTube saying WWE had the same issues when Peacock took over their PLEs. I think there's always that bump in the road at first of whenever someone new takes over this product, they got to figure out, all right, we got to scale to this level. They got to figure out the whole dynamic of how this is going to work. And personally, I don't remember there being much of a problem with Peacock. I was much more skeptical when it was the original WWE network launching, where it was like them handling it with the MLB service they were using for the deal. And it was like, you know, that was very early on in the live streaming deal.
Right.
So I remember that first WrestleMania that came out when the WWE network launched. Like, me and my boys, we were like, you know what? I think I'm still get this on old school pay-per-view just in case. And once I know they can handle this outside of that, then I'll commit to watching on the network. But that first WrestleMania, I had my doubts, and I was like, no, let's go the old school way on this one, just in case we're not dealing with like a crazy stream. But yeah, it's streaming's a wild card still. It really is.
Yeah, it's a hell of a reality check, and we're definitely not as far along as we thought we were, because of the fact that this is what it is. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. Of course, Raw premieres on Netflix in January, and AEW will eventually stream to HBO Max. Tony Khan has not said officially, obviously, when that will be, and he doesn't want to speculate, but that's coming, but hopefully sooner than later. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens when when people just can't do anything but refresh.
Yeah. When you're looking at the spinning circle, there's not much you can do. Sometimes you got to exit out of the app and come back in. It is.
People were pissed. They were watching on their phones. They were standing upside down. Well, if you point towards, the direction of the fight, maybe it'll be better. Like, okay,
right. All right, enough about that. Let's we still got some good chunk of time here before halftime. So how about we do let's get into something small before halftime before we switch things up in the second half.
Yeah. So Wade Barrett, he's kind of doing like the Nigel McGuinness thing. Now he said that he never retired, and that makes sense. I don't remember him saying that he was done. I remember him getting injured. Right. I remember him leaving WWE, but I don't remember him saying that he was specifically done. So he tells Metro in the UK that he's never retired. It doesn't mean that I'm never going to have another match. It just means that we don't know. The former Intercontinental Champion insisted that, quote, there's a big question mark as to whether or not he was stepping between the ropes again. Now, it's been a minute since I've seen him in the ring, and apparently he hasn't wrestled since 2016 when he lost to the New Day on Raw. And he's currently 44, currently a commentator. Would you be interested in one more match from Wade Barrett? Is he somebody that kind of deserves an actual proper send-off? Since 2025 is going to be the end of the year of the send-off with, Goldberg saying that he's been training for a year for his, 15-minute long retirement match, wherever that may be.
I absolutely would. Yeah. Lord knows WWE likes in the past to do the deal where someone starts kind of bullying one of the announcers. And it slowly builds to, especially if it's an old wrestler, and then they end up back in the ring to see if they can still do it. Lord knows they would do that.
Yeah, Jerry Lawler did it.
Jerry Lawler all the time. They would do that kind of shit. So it wouldn't shock me at all. And hell, Wade, I wouldn't mind as a one-off. Sure, why not? I'd be down for it. Honestly, where I think I'd kind of like to see it the most? I'd kind of like to see it happen in NXT instead of like on the main roster. I think there'd be like an interesting thing they could do with like him doing something like involving folks in NXT being he came up through there originally. I mean, the whole original first the Nexus and all that, it's like kind of tie something into like the roots of NXT and Wade Barrett. I don't know, just throwing ideas out here, but I'd be fine with it. I'd be down.
I would too. And that's kind of why I brought it up, where it's just like, I mean, if that's what he says, then I would like to see one more match. And specifically, give me Wade Barrett, Joe Hendry in London.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, something for the fans, something for everybody. But yeah, I'll be okay with that. I don't mind that at all. I like it. And I hope that if, of course, the time is right, we get the right angle, it all makes sense, that he gets to go ahead and do that. Ricky Starks, haven't seen him in a while on AEW. Apparently, March 30th was the last time that he was seen on AEW TV in an episode of Collision. And here it is a week from Thanksgiving. He's ready to go. He's healthy. He's just not on AEW TV. But he will be in House of Glory. He's making his House of Glory debut in Chicago in the middle of January 17th.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Now, House of Glory isn't affiliated with the WWE ID program, but it is one of the bigger indie promotions in the New York area. It's been that way for a while. With that said, though, the fact that Starks is under contract as of right now, taking indie dates in a major way, even though it's not till January, will we ever see him in an AEW ring again? Like, do we need to? Is it just kind of a foregone conclusion at this point?
It sure seems doubtful at this point. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised they're not blocking him from doing the indie dates.
Right.
That they're allowing him while under contract to do the indie dates while they're benching him, and not doing anything with him.
Now, I don't know when his contract expires. I don't know if that's something that is happening outside of the scope of his contract. Maybe his contract is up at the end of the year and he booked the thing for 2 weeks later. But that's possible. But it is interesting to see that this is kind of like, especially after 6 months off, among the bigger things that he's doing. And yes, it's not happening until January. but it's still kind of like, huh. They're advertising Ricky Starks for House of Glory in Chicago on Triller. Interesting. And it doesn't really bode well for whatever's going on in AEW. And then again,
now that part I didn't realize. You're saying they're advertising as part of the show on Triller, as appearing, not just on the show, but actually on the broadcast.
The breaking Friday, January 17th, HOG will hashtag will be absolute as Absolute Ricky Starks makes his House of Glory debut in Chicago. Watch on Triller TV. Tickets available, blah, blah, blah. That's from the Twitter.
Now, if they're putting it on Triller, now that's even more interesting. Because I was assuming this was like, indie show and you had to, be.
Yeah, he's not making an appearance. This isn't a wrestle school thing. He's on the show.
If they're putting him on camera and he's on the show, that adds more smoke to the fire of what I think you were saying about maybe his contract's up at the end of the year and he's going to be free and clear come January. Because that's a lot more. There's a lot more to that now where it's like they're going to let him be on the broadcast while he's under contract and they're not using him. That don't add up in that respect.
And there's a video that accompanies it, which says basically the same thing, but uses this AEW theme to, back up. So interesting. Obviously interesting because he's one of the more high-profile guys that's not injured and not being used, and is doing things like Miro's in the same position, and I think he's actually gone from AEW at this point, but it's still kind of like, well, how long is he going to wait before he gets back to doing a thing? So interesting for Starks. Interesting that we'll have to see what happens. Now, he made an appearance at Glory Pro Wrestling back in October. He'll apparently be there again in November, but cool. Just straight indie show, nothing major. But as he's confirmed that he's still under contract, him stepping on and doing that is kind of, I don't know if there's some tea leaves to read, but it's kind of interesting that happens. And then last thing, really quickly, the Full Gear media call was today, and it's a lot of the questions were about, of course, HBO Max and AEW. Now, of course, Khan said, nope, can't tell you that when that's going to happen. But he did say that there's a lot of work that's going to have to happen to get the backlog of AEW onto the HBO Max platform, of course. And it will be interesting to see what that looks like, next year, because we have an idea that AEW will be on HBO Max in 2025. So there's been speculation of a new show. There's been speculation that Rampage is going to go away. There's been speculation that Dynamite and Collision may switch days and stuff like that. What's the TNT sports landscape going to look like now that they've lost the NBA and dealing with hockey and baseball? And it'd be really interesting to see what that looks like with AEW, especially after this Netflix debacle. They've kind of they're arguably more behind the 8 ball because HBO Max is just a specific thing. It's not like the worldwide all-encompassing thing that Netflix is. Mm-hmm. It's just, not Fast and Furious, but it's just Harry Potter and stuff, and then
all your DC properties.
So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, going forward. But if you're AEW, I don't know, you're sweating this new television deal thing. So
the world of streaming, it might be the big story of 2025. How these streaming platforms are able to handle all this wrestling content coming their way. That's probably going to be the story of the start of the year when we say Happy New Year coming soon. All right, let's take our halftime break. When we come back, we're going to have our new WWE ID Spotlight segment. We're going to do that. We got Full Gear to talk about in the second half since we got that card going down this weekend. So we're going to take a look at that and some other stuff too. Some more quick hits coming your way, folks. So stay with us and buckle in. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back right after this.
A little birdie told me, everybody, that you may be interested in doing some sponsorship and advertising opportunities with us here at Big Gold Belt Media. You know what? You might as well, because we are the golden standard for all of your media needs. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Besides, all of your pre-roll ads, your mid-roll ads, as well as your on-air reads are going to be done by me, Damian G. Yeah, professional broadcaster, Damian G. We do all types of social media promotions. That means your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your business website all get shouted out on our network here at Big Gold Belt Media, where we cover wrestling, movies, comics, and more. And you can find out more information and make those inquiries, kids, because, limited time offer here at Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Again, that is Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Why would you want to go anywhere else? I wouldn't. Well, I work here, but I still wouldn't even if I didn't. So again, Big Gold Belt Media for all your sponsorship and advertising opportunities, your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, all of your social media platforms, as well as any business website you want us to promote on our show. Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. And let them know Damon G sent you.
Welcome back, folks, to your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. As we discussed last week, we are changing things up with our post-halftime segment. Instead of doing the Indie Spotlight, we're now going to be spotlighting signees of the WWE ID program, the prospects, if you will, because they are coming fast and they are coming furious. They're happening. God, it seems like every week there's a handful already. So these names are going to be coming, it seems, relentlessly. So we are not going to have a shortage of ones to choose from. So we've tasked Giant Crab with taking a look and seeing what's happening with the WWE ID program. So here we go with the very first Big Gold Belt podcast, WWE ID Spotlight.
Right. And this week we're looking at a guy from Saugus, Massachusetts. He's a mainstay in the great, Northeast. We're talking, Creative Pro. We're talking Beyond. We're talking Limitless up in Maine. And we're talking about Ricky Smokes. Not a guy that I've seen before this WWE ID thing, which made me very interested into why they picked him. What makes him stand out so much over everybody else? And he's probably the one out of the guys, especially the guys that were just ID'd this weekend, as Smokes was at his show up in Chaotic Wrestling. He looks like a WWE guy.
Okay.
He, has the frame. He has the build. Has that damn square jaw that WWE likes. But he's 24. And if you look at Cage Match, out of the matches that they have him ranked in, and the ranking subjective, yes, 2024 was far and away his best year. He had one match that was ranked a 7 out of 10 in 2023, and then it's been 5 and up in 2024. I'm not counting November because we're still in it. But the point is that he's definitely a guy on the up. He's definitely a guy that has that look and feel that WWE likes, and number one, they trust the promotion. So he's worked a lot of Beyond, a lot of Chaotic Wrestling, a lot of Limitless.
I'm looking right now. He just has the Wrestling Open tag team titles.
Yeah,
a lot of a team with Brad Baylor. Swipe right, it says here on a page.
So so they like that dangerous pretty boy look in WWE, and Ricky Smokes is one of those guys that I get it, and I think it's indicative of the type of person they're looking for. Looking over a bunch of his matches and to see like highlight packages and stuff like that, I'm not going to call him Seth Rollins because of the build and the size that he has on him. He has the frame of Seth Rollins, obviously not the character. But the moveset is definitely a mixed, like a hybrid moveset. He has this front neck lock, this front chancery that he can slip on at any time. It's almost like a front anaconda vice is bananas. And that's actually pretty damn evil. I don't think I've seen that before, the way that he slips it on. And he has this, move, the one hitter, of course, is this big knockout, finisher. But the long and short of it is that they're definitely looking over all of the people that are named, especially like the 3 or 4 that were named this weekend,
Right.
they obviously have a type, and it's very WWE like. That doesn't mean that they're going to be the next AJ Styles or they're going to be the next, Dean Ambrose or Rollins or, anything like that. But this is the home of like Dijak and those guys, and up there in the Northeast. So they definitely have a type. They definitely have a style, and I do believe that Ben Carter, I think he's Nathan Frazier now in NXT. Kind of reminds me of that look where he was a totally different person when he came in, run of the Indies, in AEW for a little bit, and then now that he's in WWE as Nathan Frazier, he has his character together. It's more WWE-like, but he still can be the wrestler that got him there. And maybe in a year or two in NXT, we see whoever Ricky Smokes becomes, assuming they allow him to keep his name. Maybe he goes through that transformation where they have the wrestler built. They just need to put the package around him.
Right. The presentation, the character, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
All the WWE fine tuning that they like to do.
Right. Which is, of course, the opposite of the NIL college kids that have the WWE package. They just need to get the wrestling done.
Right. We got to build your wrestling from the ground up. It's basically they're starting at 2 different parts, but ending at the same destination.
Yes.
In the center.
Yes.
Yeah. I got you there.
There's some other names in that list, and we'll go over all of them eventually. But there's some other names in that list, and we'll have to see what it looks like. But I'm definitely sensing a type where, okay, unpolished, we know what you can do in the ring, but let's get the WWE vacuum seal on you, and get you right in that direction, and then we'll go forward. So this week, they've ID'd him, and so we got to take a look at him too. Ricky Smokes, and if you're up there in the Northeast, let us know. Let us know if you've seen him live, especially up there in the Boston, Maine,
Wrestling Open,
York, area. Let us know what you think of him. Let us know if you think that he'll actually cut it. Maybe they saw some flash and maybe he will make it or not. So how far does this go for Ricky Smokes? Obviously the sky's the limit, or is it? So let us know what you think of him, especially if you've seen him live. He's only been doing it for a few years. I think he debuted in 2019. So he's, currently working on his, 5th year. I think he's 24 years old right now. So
4 years old. Yes, indeed.
Definitely on the less experienced side as far as time in the ring. Definitely on the younger side when it comes to, him being 24 and not 26 or 27. But yeah, let us know. They ID'd him, and so did we. He's Ricky Smokes from Saugus, Massachusetts, and he's prominent up there in the Northeast indie scene. So let us know what you think of him as we ID the WWE IDs this week.
There you go. And I'm going to mention this, since I had never heard of this guy before this now, and you brought part of the deal we're doing with this thing is Crab's pulling names out, and we're finding out on the show, just like you guys are. So I never heard of this guy. I find his Twitter right away, which is @smokeshow_Ricky. A tip to the folks out there that are getting ID that he has on his page that I would recommend. He has a highlight package pinned to the top of his page. So once you gave me his name, I looked him up, went here, and as we were talking, I had the little highlight package here running. So I could immediately see,
2 minutes, but it shows you what you need to know.
Dude has a good drop kick. He's got a really good leaping ability. He moves around really good. The drop kick impressed me. It was in there a couple different times.
Yeah.
So I would recommend all these WWE ID folks, put this on your social media. Have your little highlight package so for folks like us who don't know who you are, can get that little taste quick and easy to see what you are. Now, then we can further go into it. I need to check out Wrestling Open now and see what this guy's all about.
Yeah.
He's doing this stuff in the Northeast. So very smart move there from Ricky Smokes. I said @smokeshow_Ricky on X. So sure he's on Instagram too, probably under the same handle. I wouldn't be surprised, but definitely interesting. Interesting. Now you got me excited to see about next week, to see who we'll get hit with, check out next. So interesting times with this WWE ID program.
Okay, real quick before we move on, because I'm just seeing this right now. This was posted yesterday. WWN. Remember them? And I know that we brought it up a while ago, but WWN is having on December 15th a WWE ID showcase match. And it will be on
I thought about this.
Yeah, WWN Super Show. So it will be WWE ID Prospect versus Prospect. They have enough of them, to pull together a full card. But when I look at the poster, when I look at the poster and I see everybody that's in there, one of the matches is Dempsey versus Tim Thatcher. Interesting. So this is like, is this the second coming of Evolve, of that whole thing where it's like you've made it out of the 5 WWE affiliated schools. Now we're going to send you to Gabe, and he'll get you
polish you up some.
Yeah, that'll be the double A version, and then now you got to go up to triple A, and then we'll get you on the Orange Grove circuit in NXT, and then finally, welcome to the show. You made it to Raw, SmackDown. It seems
like the new version of the coconut
built.
loop they used to have for NXT.
Yeah, the coconut loop. Yeah, and it's interesting, especially since this thing is in Clearwater. So it's Florida's going to Florida, but it's really interesting to see the pipeline seemingly being put together in front of us.
There's a lot of little stuff, it seems like, that went away during COVID. It's taken a while, but it's starting to come back now. And this might be that next piece that, I have a feeling that Gabe's got the time to be running an actual damn promotion since he's doing all this scouting. But it sounds like he's probably getting the word out that if you're booking shows and you're on good terms with me, I'll send you guys to from the ID program that you can use, and you can use the ID branding to help your events.
Right. And I didn't know the WWN was still a thing, but not only are they a thing,
honestly.
Right. But not only are they a thing, but they're doing a thing December 15th down there in Clearwater, Florida. So if you want to see, and I don't know if they're going to have the full complement of WWE ID talent, but some of them going to be there. So
showcase at least.
Yeah, it's at least a showcase for some of them. Hopefully all of them. Hopefully more to come as they announce more ID prospects now up until that show in December 15th. So okay, now we're cooking with gas. So this is an interesting prospect, and we'll watch this space because I'm gonna be keeping up on all of it. So we'll see what it is next week.
All right, we got a little bit of time here before we talk Full Gear. So let's get a little quick hit for me before we get into Full Gear happening this weekend.
Okay, so Toni Storm said that she's retiring, and we all know that doesn't mean that she's officially retiring because. Number one, she's under contract. Number two, why would she? And Grand Slam is happening in Australia in February. But yes, she did lose and has been losing a lot. I wonder if this is the retirement of the timeless Toni Storm gimmick. Is she retiring as a thespian / wrestler and is just going to go back to some other iteration of Toni Storm? I don't know if we're doing spike jacket and baseball cap backwards, but
has the gimmick run its course?
Yeah, well, yeah, and it kind of has. It's been a thing. It was a hell of a gimmick, arguably the gimmick of the year for this year. But now that it's over and seemingly done with, and she hasn't been on TV in a while, even though she has been announced for a CMLL show. I want to say in December. It's still to the point of okay, the gimmick's run its course. Now what? So I wonder if that's what that means, is that she comes back, because I can't imagine her missing Grand Slam in Brisbane in February.
No.
Yeah. So I wonder what that looks like. And I wonder if this is for her just a good time to actually settle things and come back, with a new gimmick, whatever that looks like. So
yeah, I would like to see some kind of tweak to it. I think the whole old timey movie star thing it feels like they've kind of mined that for probably just about everything you can get out of it. And Lord knows the way everything went with the Mariah May feud. That took such a more serious turn with the big turn on her with the blood and all that. It's like that became such a more serious thing that clearly they got to run that back. That is not over and done with. So if you're gonna have her involved with Mariah May, if you're gonna have her coming back for her title, I kind of think you need to make things a bit more serious. And doing all the old timey starlet thing, it doesn't fit quite as good as it should.
But because she's starting in such a early place in cinema, this black and white starlet that just got out of vaudeville, just got out of silent films, she's doing a 40s and 50s type of a thing. Who's to say that she won't progress in cinema and become a badass heroine like Mad Max or Linda Hamilton from Terminator, or Foxy Brown or something like that? Maybe she becomes
modernizes the theatrical aspect.
Modernizes the badass action hero woman. Maybe she becomes Lara Croft or something like that, in that vein of action, superstar, still keeping the gimmick, but obviously progressing it forward in whatever her mind is working with. Or to add to that seriousness, maybe she just goes, no, fuck that, it's on site now, and and I'm going to kill this woman, and I hope they can do it in front of my family.
Yeah, there's different ways they could go with it. Well, okay, here's a question: do you think we'll see her at Full Gear? Is it time for the return? Do you think is it time to pull the trigger?
No, absolutely not. I don't think we see her anymore this year. I do think that she needs some time away, and you can't say this week I'm retiring from in-ring competition, and she did it in character,
right? And
then go, oh yes, psych, Full Gear is this weekend. I need to be in New Jersey.
And looking at the card right now, Mariah May's not on the card. She doesn't have a match at the moment. So, and I would think her return will be tied to something with Mariah May, I think.
Right. Or Amina Shirakawa.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Heck, maybe is it time to talk about Full Gear?
Yeah, sure.
Probably. Let's get the big thing that's happening this weekend done. If we got a little extra time left, we can deal with that when the time comes. But AEW Full Gear this weekend, happening in let's see, where is this going down at? Jersey. That's right, Newark.
Yeah, the Prudential Center, I
believe. Yes, indeed, Prudential Center in Newark. Be the second Full Gear held there after 2022.
Yeah, so, I was there in 2022.
There you go. So let's do this. We do our usual. I'll run down the card, and then we can say what jumps out at us, what looks interesting on here. So the pre-show match has a lot of folks' attention here, and I'll definitely talk about this once we're done, with Big Boom AJ of the Costco guys with Big Justice. And the Rizzler will be there also, apparently, as a special guest timekeeper, taking on QT Marshall. That's going on the pre-show at this point. From there, we go to the main card. We have MJF versus Roderick Strong. We have Jay White versus Hangman Adam Page. We have a four-way for the AEW tag team titles between Private Party, the Outrunners, Kings of the Black Throne, Malachi Black, and Brody King, and the Acclaim. That's for the tag titles. We have the TBS Women's Championship. Mercedes Moné defending against Chris Statlander. Swerve Strickland versus Bobby Lashley in Lashley's first AEW pay-per-view appearance. Jack Perry versus Daniel Garcia for the TNT Championship. Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in a grudge match there. And last but not least, for the AEW World Championship, Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy is the card as of right now. First thing that jumps out at me is mostly all singles matches on this thing. There's not like multi-man stuff. There's not like, we just have that four-way and that's it. And other than that, it's all singles matches. That feels unusual.
Yeah,
for that.
It does, and I think it's also like the lack of a major gimmick match, and also considering that as of right now, and granted we haven't had Collision, so I don't know what they're going to add to the show, because there's going to be more than one pre-show match. You also know that there are 8 matches on the card. They could definitely squeeze a couple more in.
That's light for them.
Yeah. And since a lot of them are singles matches, and I'm only seeing 4 out of the 8 matches be championship matches anyway. So that's also something that's a bit unusual. But again, we still have a show. Two shows. I think Rampage and Collision. Who knows what they're going to have. What's the big match for you that stands out? Because you already know what it is for me.
Looking at this, this is an odd show here. Honestly, what I'm most curious about, and I was saying this already online, I think that AJ QT Marshall match should not be on the pre-show and should be moved to the main card, because I'll give those Costco guys credit. They've been promoting the hell out of this damn thing. They've been showing a bunch of these new school guys how old school wrestling promotion used to be done. And I would honestly move that to the main show and make people pay for that. Get some of these YouTube kids to shell out some money for that match to see QT Marshall against Big Boom AJ and Big Justice and the Rizzler and all that. I would switch out. Hell, people would hate to hear this. I know some of these folks would hate for me to say Jay White and Hangman Page get moved, or MJF and Roderick Strong, but I'd be fine with either of those matches getting moved to the pre-show and throwing that on there instead. But that's honestly the match I'm most curious about. Seeing an old indie wrestler getting his first taste of a TV and fame in 2024 as a TikTok star.
I think. Okay, so number one, just full disclosure, QT Marshall is my favorite wrestler in AEW. He's amongst my favorite wrestlers in the world, male or female, top 5 easily. So when I heard that QT was on the pay-per-view, I said that I'm definitely going to be watching Full Gear. Mm-hmm. Now that I know he's on the pre-show, I'm definitely going to be watching the pre-show only. But
get out early.
Yeah, because I don't need the rest of the card. As far as the rest of the card goes, taking the pre-show out of it because I'm biased, I think that 4-way tag match may be the most fun.
Yeah, that's what Damian G is chiming in with here. Our old buddy Damian down there in the Lone Star State says, give the Outrunners the championship because it needs to happen. The Outrunners are definitely a hot act. And looking at that lineup of those 4 teams,
they're 4 very different teams.
Yes, definitely.
And with Private Party as the champion currently, that's the only reason why I say that they should retain. I don't think their run has been long enough. I do like the Outrunners, and I think that time is on their side. Malachi Black and Brody King, I'm sorry. It's just a no. And the Acclaimed, again, a no. So now that we have something new, I don't necessarily need them to change it right now. And also, you do have another month before the next pay-per-view, which is actually, isn't that also in the New York, Jersey area as well?
World's End?
Yeah. No, it's in Orlando, I think.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah, you're right. It is Florida because WWE's running that house show very close by.
Yeah, I think it's in Orlando. But the point is that we're finally seeing something new. The Bucks are done. Cool. Why take it from private party right now? Let them get a little bit of a run in. I'm okay with that. But I think that match could be the most fun. The rest of it, I don't really need. I think, and I hate to admit it, and I'm gonna kick myself later. I think Jon Moxley versus Orange Cassidy could surprise some people. In that something's going to have to give. Moxley is not the comedy wrestler. Orange Cassidy isn't the Bloodsport deathmatch wrestler. Mm-hmm. If they can bring those levels into the middle, we may see something that we haven't seen before. Now, here's the thing, and this is where my bias comes back into play. Fuck Jon Moxley. Give Orange the belt right now. He's been...
Put a nail in this damn Death Riders thing already.
But he's been maybe over Jericho, definitely over Adam Page, and I would even argue over Kenny Omega. Orange Cassidy has been silently holding down the fort. If not since day 1, since day 2.
That international title run, when that was going on, we were going on about that. That shit was solid. It was like the quiet, it was like the steady thing that delivered every single match.
And the only person that I could say that has been that consistent on that level, especially as a champion, is Darby. like just consistently since day one. So with that said, I would never be mad at John Moxley losing, but I do think that Orange is absolutely deserving of it. And also, they could use more face champions in AEW just in general. Jack Perry is a heel champion. Moxley's a heel champion. Mercedes is a heel champion, and Private Party are face champions. And who has the Intercontinental belt? Is it Okada still?
Yeah, Okada.
Yeah, another heel champion. So, yeah, I would like to see Orange win. I would like to see Private Party retain. I think those two matches could be very interesting. But honestly, if I'm being 100% completely truthful, everything after QT Marshall is irrelevant.
Yeah, most of this show is a skip from me. It's definitely if I'm home Saturday night and I happen to be around, there's a couple things I'd be curious about checking out. But that pre-show match is the thing I'm most interested in by far. So the actual, like the paying part of the show, it's like there's a lot of guys on this show that are guys that I tend to avoid. I'm not interested in watching. And that's it's a heavy card for that. There's probably 4 to 5 guys on that show that are channel changers for me. It's kind of
I definitely understand that, and I think, as we say almost every week, match placement is going to be very key. The way that it's written, if you look at like the wiki for it, is kind of like, I would not book this card this way. So it will be interesting to see. Obviously, Moxley versus Orange is going to be the main event, but will that come before another title match? Will they come before Ospreay versus Fletcher, which is supposed to be a big deal if you care about them? I don't, so that's not something I would leave before the main event. So the way they build the show is going to be really telling of the overall product of what it is. But honestly, it's a really odd mixed bag, and I wonder if this is kind of like they're holding back before whatever happens in 2025 with HBO Max, where they have to step on the gas a little bit.
Oh, yeah. That's the way they're saving stuff for the new year. I mean, and they got the Continental Classic coming up, so they got to run through that tournament and all that. So they got a busy couple months coming up ahead. So and in some ways, this feels kind of like a placeholder show where it's like, all right, we got to do this show, but January is really going to be the focus of everything. Early 2025 is really going to be the focus of everything. So
right. And I think the Continental Classic finals is at the next pay-per-view.
That's how they worked it last year. Yeah, it was the December show. So I would assume they're doing that again where it kind of dominates December and they go from there. All right, we're almost at our time. So let's do what we did last week. Because we're pushing the whole Big Gold Belt Media thing, stuff outside of wrestling. This isn't all just about wrestling here at Big Gold Belt Media. Crab, I remember you dropped the letterbox a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Where do you watch it? What's got your attention this week?
So the two biggest movies in this country that are coming out, that are already out tonight, would be Gladiator 2 and Wicked. I do plan on seeing Gladiator tomorrow in IMAX and Wicked Saturday morning. Now, just so you know, and I don't, Wicked's damn near 3 hours.
That's what I heard.
It's 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is going to push that up to 3 hours if you add in the previews and all that stuff. Gladiator is a smooth 2.5 hours. So, that's going to be an interesting sit if you want to do both back to back, nearly 6 hours of content. There are a couple other things that are happening that are smaller that I'm looking forward to seeing. Personally, I'm going to be in New York on Thanksgiving, so there's some movies up there that are not coming down here, if at all. They're not coming till later. There's a movie called Flow about a cat that looks absolutely amazing. Okay. It premieres here in December, but in New York they're going to get it Wednesday. So check the letterbox. I'm going to be updated every time I see something, and then I'm off to Europe. So I hope to see a bunch of movies in Germany and Hungary as I'm traipsing through the Alps and all that good stuff too. So letterbox, I think it's not Big Gold Belt. It's BGB Media on Letterboxd, and just watch that space. Hell, give us a follow, and we'll get you right on what to see. BGB Media on the Letterboxd.
There you go. As you mentioned, with Wicked and Gladiator coming out, I know 2 James, editor-in-chief, has been busy getting interviews for that stuff. There's some already posted on our feed. So Big Gold Belt Media has you covered with these holiday blockbusters that are dropping this week for the Thanksgiving season.
Moana 2 comes out next week. That's going to be a big deal. And then there's another smaller movie that I'm dying to see called The Killing of the Seed of a Sacred Fig. It's about a corruption case in the Middle East where everything's going to hell because of corruption reasons. Looks bananas. I can't wait to see it. But yeah, check us out on Letterboxd. Give us a follow. Let us know what you think about stuff. Let us know what you think about the WWE ID stuff too, because a lot of these guys I'm seeing for the first time. A lot of information to compact and basically figure out why WWE likes them. What are they looking into?
Question: what got them the prospect tag?
And why them and not somebody else? So if you know a person that they should be looking into, whether it's from a similar company or similar region, let us know that too. Big Gold Belt on everything.
There you go. We'll run it down as we always do. So as he says, BGB Media on Letterboxd for all that stuff. Across the social media normally for everything else, whether it's X, Instagram, at Big Gold Belt is where you can find us on social media. Got the Blue Sky working this week, doing lots of stuff over there. So Blue Sky's running, X is running, Instagram's running, at Big Gold Belt across the board. Of course, on the web, it is biggoldbelt.com. Wrestling, movies, comics, and more. Like we said, got the movies covered, all this wrestling stuff happening. It's going to be a busy next couple weeks. We got Survivor Series coming. So with that in mind, with the holiday next week, we will not be live next Thursday night, but we will have a show for you. So we will have a recording in the can that we will release next Thursday that will cover, I'm sure we'll be talking about Full Gear. We'll take a look at Survivor Series since that goes down next Saturday with War Games. So new content next week, even though we have Thanksgiving going on, all that good stuff. So we got you covered at Big Gold Belt Media, wrestling, movies, comics, and more. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We're here each and every week, Thursday night, 8 p.m., chatting live. Show lives on in podcast form. Video version lives on YouTube. You can get it on all your favorite podcast platforms. We got you covered in every possible way. So until next week, folks, watch some wrestling, check out some holiday movies, get ready for some turkey next week, and we will talk to you then.
All I really need, that big